SaaS Therapy.
Hey everyone, Todd here. This episode is going to be a lot of fun. And if you're new to the show, we hope you make sure you give us a follow and stick around for future episodes. This episode has a little bit of mild language, but it is amazing and really fun and open and honest. So enjoy. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of SaaS Therapy, the show where we help you save your most important business relationships, your customers. I'm your host, Todd Kirk. I'm joined by my wild card assistant co-host, Casey Trujillo. Hey, Casey.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I love it.
Wild card doesn't mean that he's a substitute. It's just the fact that he's wild and chaotic, and I never know where he's going to go. So
fair points. Fair points. Thank you, Todd.
We are joined today by a really special guest. I'm really pumped for this conversation. We have on Amanda Nielsen, who is the founder of Thought Leader Labs, and she's also a partner sales manager at Box. And today we are looking forward to an awesome conversation. Amanda, welcome to SaaS Therapy.
Hi guys, so good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Todd, it was awesome to let you know a little bit about how we got introduced to Amanda. So, Box and Brainstorm, we have a partnership together, and so as I developed this partnership with Box, I saw this Amanda person like pop up everywhere on my LinkedIn, like everywhere, and I'm like, this person is pretty cool. So the day I reached out to her to be on the podcast was the same day that she got assigned to be our partner lead at Brainstorm. So I think the universe is telling us something, that it was destiny for her to be on the podcast today. So Amanda, what we are here to discuss today is how do I grow my presence on LinkedIn? Because if we're all being honest, there's three different types of people. People that like to just consume LinkedIn, they get on there, they just read people's posts, and they're like, oh, that's pretty cool, and then they might go share that in a meeting or something like that. Then there's people that they like make a post and then they run away because they don't want to see if anyone has any reactions or comments. They just like, the goal was that they just posted something and they felt great about it, and they do it once and then they don't do it for like 10 more weeks. And then there's people like you that are really great at it and just don't seem to have a care in the world, and you're just putting information out there for people to look at. So let's start with just the basic question of why would I want to post my presence on LinkedIn? Isn't it just a Facebook and an Instagram now? Has it lost the appeal, or is there a benefit to actually putting information out there on LinkedIn?
For sure. Also, love that you called out how we got connected. I totally forgot about it, but I'm like really delusional in that I also believe it was fate. So I love that for us. But to answer your question, I think LinkedIn is actually like the most valuable platform. I might be a little bit biased, but like in my career, there is actually nothing that has been more impactful than having a professional platform to build my personal brand on. TikTok, Instagram, even Twitter just don't hit the same if you're trying to become like a B2B thought leader. So I am all for LinkedIn. It's my favorite place in the world, actually.
Is there an example, just to set the context for people, of a tangible example that you might give of why this has helped you? And again, just to set the context and background so someone gets an idea of what that might look like. And I'm sure Todd has a story, and there's a couple I could share about the importance of actually doing this. But is there one that comes to mind for you?
Yeah, for sure. I think the most like drastic example would be when I was going through something like probably one of the shittiest things that's happened to me in a while. I'll try and keep this story brief, but essentially a couple years ago, I had gotten poached from a company that I had been at for about 4 years, had moved up and like helped them grow their team, was really happy and content, but was made an offer I couldn't refuse. And it was kind of like, 4 years is like 100 million years in B2B SaaS. So I was ready to like move on. Anyway, so I go and I join this company and I get a big promotion, new title, and I share with my network. And I'm like, guys, look, like this is going to be so great. Look what I'm doing. And then like shortly after I started, the board brought on a new CRO and a new CFO, and they came in and cleaned house and laid off my entire org. So the VP who hired me every single partnerships person plus most of marketing and rev ops. And it literally was like maybe 53 days into the role. And I'm talking like days period, not even business days. Like it was less than 2 months. And I had gotten laid off, which was like exceptionally humbling and highly unpleasant. Also, really crazy in Colorado. I guess the way unemployment works is they base your payouts on like your tenure at your previous company. So if you work somewhere for only 50 days, you're kind of like shit out of luck. So that was a bummer for me. But what I did in that scenario was be like extremely vocal about it. I was like, that was like the first thing I did was take to LinkedIn to be like, hey guys, like, guess what happened to me? And was really like pretty vulnerable and candid about my story and like how shitty it was. I know like when a lot of people get laid off, they're like, I'm so grateful to my employer, blah, 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 which is like in some cases it's, that's the vibe, but that was not the vibe here. And I wasn't going to sugarcoat it or pretend it was. So I was pretty, yeah, I was pretty candid. And I think a lot of people saw that and really respected like the vulnerability and kind of the guts to be able to come out and share this like huge like failing on my part, honestly. Just in, to put it kindly, I missed a lot of red flags, which I then like shared about. And it was kind of like a whole like series of posts where I was just like airing out all these like dirty details about this terrible thing. And it got so much attention. It's actually like how I got my role at Box. Box found me because I was posting all over social media. My peers knew I was looking. So when, my boss, Dan, went to his network to try and find partnerships people, everyone knew that I was looking. Business Insider reached out to me and interviewed me about my experience because it was just like so ridiculous. And so that was like a really exciting, like cool thing for me to do. And now it's an accolade that I had. Hopefully next time I'm featured, it's for something like a little more positive, but like nonetheless, super cool. Got a ton of new connections from that. So that's probably the most dramatic example of how LinkedIn has impacted my career positively.
Okay, I love that, Amanda. I think for me, when I think about LinkedIn, I'm always trying to figure out what is the best way for me. So I've worked for the same company for over a decade. Casey and I both have. We've both been here for over 12. Well, Casey's been here like 15. I've been here 12, right? So we've worked at the same place for a long time. And when I think about LinkedIn, one of the challenges that I'm always trying to balance is what is my own personal brand? How do I speak for and represent my company well? And how do I make sure that those two get married together? Because one of the things that you mentioned there that is obviously a challenge and trying to figure this out is as someone on LinkedIn, you're always representing both a company brand and a personal brand. And how do you try to balance that? I'm curious to get your take there, especially now, like your personal brand helped you land at Box, it sounds like. So that's actually a good thing. But how do you balance those two?
Carefully. That's a great question. And I think it really depends on the company as well. I've been doing this a long time, like before it was like even like super cool. And people are like, what is this girl doing at first? And so, it definitely has evolved. Like I'd say the average company is like much more supportive and accepting of like their individuals actually building personal brands. People are starting to really see and understand how it's totally advantageous to the company to be able to have like a thought leader, a face that people recognize, that people associate with your company. It also helps to work at a company where like the CEO and founder is like really big on Twitter. Box is a great example of that. Aaron Levy is all over social media. So I think that definitely like sets a tone for the rest of the org that like this can be a really powerful tool for people. There's definitely been times where I've towed the line and maybe gotten a slap on the wrist or two in the past, maybe when I was like a little younger. But I'd say overall, like using good judgment, understanding the culture of the company you're at and kind of gauging the vibes from there. And then, making sure that you're never like speaking on behalf of the company. I don't ever do the thing where I'm like, by the way, like this isn't the opinion of the company I work at, because I feel like that's just common sense. But I don't know. So far it's worked out okay for me.
I love I love that approach and the understanding of that and going in with the right mindset. For me, LinkedIn, it's and Amanda, it's called SaaS therapy for a reason. You're going to be my therapist here for just a second, okay? So I'm going to be vulnerable. Don't laugh at me.
Okay.
Give me help, okay? So on my LinkedIn, one thing that is beneficial is the thing that gets the most views for me, and not just views because I'm not there for views. I'm trying to again create my brand is workout videos. I put out workout videos on my LinkedIn because that's just kind of who I am, right? And so it's just part of me. And so I share some of the things that I do. And when I start a conversation or I get into my first call, someone will be like, "Oh man, that workout you did was just crazy." So I've separated myself. Someone has associated me with this person really works hard. They're disciplined, right? So that's cool. I like that. And that's been very beneficial in my career is people before they actually know me, they think they know me and they've associated me to something positive. Okay. My posts, thought leadership posts, are terrible. I don't get any interaction. So, what are some best practices you could share on thought leadership? I loved how you said, hey, here are red flags you should look for when you're working with a company. I missed it. Here you go. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna go read that piece. That sounds amazing. So any tips or best practices on thought leadership? Because I'm struggling.
Oh my gosh. I need to follow more closely. I didn't know you were posting workout videos. I'm gonna have to I'm gonna take tips from you. Or maybe I'll start I should start posting my Pilates videos perhaps. That's really funny that you use that as an example because I literally got on a phone call the other day with someone who I didn't know directly, but they were, they worked at one of my accounts and we knew the same people. And one of the first things he said, because we were talking about what he does, he said he played tennis in his leisure time. He goes, "I hear you're a really good athlete." And I was like, "Where did you hear that?" Like, you're not wrong, because I'm always posting on my LinkedIn about skiing and mountain biking, and I post about Pilates. I don't post videos. Like, that might be the next evolution, who's to say. But to your point, like, that stuff sticks with people, and when they meet you, they feel like they know you a little bit, or at least you have some common ground to stand on when you're, first building that rapport, and it can be super valuable and help you get a leg up no matter what you do. As for striking a balance between like personality content, or in my case, like shit post, like humor, satire content, and like actual educational content, that's still a challenge for me every single day. I want to make jokes all day, but I also have valuable and educational things to say. So, trying to make a cadence that is appealing to people where they can like take me seriously and understand that I still have credibility professionally, but also still have plenty of room for like making jokes and showing off my personality and offering like just some levity and relatable content to people. I think it's hard. I've tried to like create a content calendar. I'm working on it. I'm getting a lot better. Generally, I've let like vibes and like impulse guide me for the last like 5 or so years. And like I said, it's worked out really well so far. But I think in order to get to the next level, I might have to stop winging it a little bit. So yeah, I mean, I don't have it figured out yet. If I figure it out, I will let you know.
I think it raises the question around what, Casey mentioned the content that tends to do best for him. And, I've noticed something similar. I personally, and I'll be a little bit vulnerable in the sense that I have a hard time, being myself, and like talking a lot about my own personal interests and hobbies. There's times where I've done it. Like, I made a video where I did a headstand into a handstand. That's like the only fitness video I ever did. And it was because I had done shoulders. I had shoulder surgery and like I had recovered from it. And I was like, oh, and that post did really, really well. But like most of the time, me talking about my own personal life, I struggle with it. Mostly not either A, I feel like nobody's going to be interested, or B, I'm afraid that I'm going to look stupid because I'm kind of a nerd or I'm a dork or, or my jokes don't land half the time. And so I'll lean way harder into a thoughtful like piece that I think is really educational or helpful, but but to your point, people tend to really gravitate to the idea, and the things that stick with them are the things that make you feel like a real person and not a robot. So like what would your advice be to somebody like me who like feels like I have great things to say, but I'm also afraid of like putting my own self out there because what if people don't like the nerdy dorky guy, you know?
Yeah, no, 100%. And congrats on your shoulder health progression. That's a huge one. That's cool. And yeah, to your point, like people love to hear about your personal wins. Like we're so sick of seeing shit about work and people kind of just like peacocking and posting all this like exaggerated content and blah 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 blah. So like when you come across a real person who's had like real life struggles sharing about it and coming out on the other side, like that sticks way more than a like, oh my god, we crushed our ARR goal this year. Like nobody cares about that. I mean, some people care. We care a little bit, but my biggest piece of advice is just like don't be afraid of looking stupid. Like looking stupid is actually like part of the process in my experience. If you're not like actively cringing and feeling like, oh my god, like why am I posting this, then you're probably not doing it right. I think that anyone who is like criticizing your content being like, ew, this is cringe, is probably not even like, they don't have the guts to post anything themselves. Like you never see people who are like out doing cool shit like criticizing other people doing cool shit. It's only the lurkers and the people who don't have it in them to put themselves out there. And I think that like generally people really respect like that risk taking and vulnerability. So that's probably been like the biggest like leg up in my career is I just don't care what people think, really. I mean, everyone does a little bit, but I have worked really hard to just soldier on and just be my most authentic self. And at first it was like, oh my god, is this gonna work? And then it started working, and so now I'll never look back.
So, Amanda, walk us through this journey and the things that you learned. So, the cool thing about LinkedIn, you come in, you set up your first profile. Everybody starts with zero, right? You have no connections, zero followers, all of this, right? And that happened for you. That happened for Todd, myself. How have you grown your presence? Take us through the journey from the start to where you're at today. What are some things that you've learned along the way?
Yeah. So I got a notification like over the summer that was like, celebrate your like 7-year LinkedIn anniversary. I was like, oh my God, I feel old. It was crazy. I've been on the platform since before I even graduated college. It was actually a requirement in our business school curriculum. Shout out Champlain College in Burlington, Vermont. We were forced to make LinkedIn like sophomore year. And they really just like forced us to like start putting ourselves out there like in networking capacities. Like that was like another like requirement that everyone in the business school every semester we had to like complete an in-person networking event. And when you're like, I don't know, 19 or 20 and you have like no job experience or anything, it's like, what do I even have to post about or talk about to anyone? So them pushing us out there to start doing that as early as possible, I think was extremely valuable. Once I got my very first internship, I started to have content to post. Granted, it was like not anything crazy or impactful, but I've always been someone who shares a lot on social media. I've always been drawn to like content creation and humor, and you know, I'm Gen Z, so I feel like it kind of comes with the territory to be like somewhat chronically online. And my first internship was at a marketing agency, and I kind of just like leaned into what made me different from everyone else there. Everyone else being older, more established in their careers. And that was like being good at social media, being super familiar with it from just like my personal use of it. I kind of translated that into LinkedIn, and it started with like, you know, posting photos and like silly little text posts, and you know, they get like 3 likes, and then gradually over time they started getting more and more. And this was around the time where like the concept of like thought leadership on LinkedIn was like still very new, very fresh. I don't know if you guys are familiar with like Dave Gerhardt. But he, I think, really like did a lot to like spearhead that movement early on. His like selfie videos where he's just like talking about marketing and stuff. And I had a chance to like work with Dave in my job. We worked with Drift as a partner, and so getting that exposure to him and like building rapport there, that was someone that I definitely kind of like took some pages out of his playbook. And because I was like a 20 something like girl, I think that was like a breath of fresh air to people, because like at that point it was really only like middle-aged white guys who were doing it. And so when I did it, they were like, whoa, this is crazy. And that really helped me stand out. And so just gradually over time, I started out like with a big professional focus, right? Because I was like, I want people to take me seriously. Like, I'm a young woman in tech, and like, you know, it's already hard enough. And so I kept it really like marketing and sales focused. It was sharing education, et cetera, et cetera. And as I got more comfortable sharing and like started feeling like people knew I knew what I was talking about, I got, you know, the ability to infuse my personality a little bit more here and there. And I kind of just did that over time, to the point where like now like I can say like the most unhinged shit and people are still like, ha, like that's awesome, you're smart. I don't think you can start out like on that level. I think you have to build credibility professionally first, or else people will just assume you're like a grifter. So it's certainly a long game.
That's awesome. Todd, I know you've been doing a good job of growing yours. I mean, so Todd, he's always been on the product side. So, product people, they are great with people, but they don't necessarily always out there and they're on LinkedIn and doing those things. I mean, usually it's someone in sales and marketing, your CEOs, different things like that are out there posting things on LinkedIn. Todd, you've grown yours very well over the last 12 months. What are some of the things you've done to do that and accomplish that?
Well, I don't know if I would. I mean, I would say, Amanda, I'm kind of at the beginning of this journey too. When we first started the podcast, before we did the podcast, I never really posted to LinkedIn at all. I mean, maybe like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I'd like back when they had articles, I would write articles, and some of those did really well. But
Throwback.
I like, right, they don't even do that anymore. That's what's crazy. I look back, I'm like, man, I had this like really viral article I wrote like forever ago. I was so proud of it, and then it's like in like oblivion into the histories of LinkedIn. But like I had never really tried to grow an audience at all. And so, I probably started with like 1,000 followers, which is like where probably just the average Joe is, just in who, if you've been in the workplace for any period of time, more than a year or two, like you're going to be about right there. And so for me, like it's just been trying to post on a more regular cadence. And like I said, I feel like I'll spend a lot of energy and time trying to come up with something that I think will resonate from like a thought leadership piece that'll go into like something my audience would like. And I'll get good engagement from that for people who are already following me. But I feel like the things that really tend to help me pick up new followers have nothing to do with like how smart I am. They all have to do with my personality. But I will be honest and just say I probably am bold enough to do something that makes me feel a little vulnerable, like maybe twice a year. So I see these spikes of like, hey, I like might pick up a new audience or find somebody, once or twice a year. And then besides that, it's a very slow, gradual climb. So like, I don't know, my takeaway immediately is like, all right, Amanda, I'll do it. I'll put the cringe out there. I'll do my best to try to like show people who I am. Cause it is true. I'm on enough calls with people where the very first thing Casey gets is, dude, like the box jumping video you did, that was crazy. Like the way you're doing those nuts push-ups, that was wild. I know nobody ever says anything about that for me. So I don't know, maybe that's how I take mine to the next level as and I've probably grown my audience by 150% in a year, but that's pittance when you're starting at almost zero. So I'm curious for you, and you think about yours, would you say it's been a pretty consistent climb? Have there been moments like where you'd say these are kind of pivot points or hinge points where my audience has grown big? Can you point to specific moments, or has it just been a consistent growth curve? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd say like anytime something really bad happens to me, I gain a lot of followers, which is like a nice silver lining, right? Because again, I've made this habit of like when I face adversity, like I share about it. Another example like early on in my career that kind of helped me like boost my followers was uh I had like LinkedIn like beef. Like I had a feud with this guy. No, really what happened was I commented on his post and he had like a psychotic break, low key. But anyways, this guy made like 20 YouTube videos about me. Because I said that he had this like really lame, like, and this was probably like 2018, 2019. So like DEI was like not a widespread thing yet. And this guy had this post that had gotten a lot of traction, and it was really sexist and shitty and just like comparing like, here's how like marketing is like getting a woman to marry you, and like if you're rich, like whatever, just like all the worst, most inappropriate stuff. And I made like some sassy like girl boss comment on it, like, well, you're probably not very good at marketing if you're like ostracizing half the audience, you know. And everyone was like, yeah, sexism sucks and whatever. And this guy, instead of like taking it in stride and being like, like maybe that was like a bad take, my bad, like sorry, he like doubled down. And it was really like such an insane experience. Maybe I'll recount this in like a video soon because it happened so long ago, and I feel like so many of the people in my orbit now like weren't around for it. But essentially this man like really doubles down, and he has this YouTube channel where he has this hobby of like making these like talking head videos where he's just kind of like ranting and raving, and like he has all these other videos on his profile like why I like won't hire single moms and just like some really strange content. Anyways, but now I'm the subject of the content for a few weeks, and at one point there's like maybe 20 videos about me, him being like, who does this girl think she is, she's 21 from Vermont, like doxing my face and my name, saying that I'm attacking him. And then he like brought my company that I worked for at the time into it, which was terrible, and said that my company put me up to it to sabotage him. Just like, it was like such a absurd, like crazy experience. And it was really scary, especially being so young. I was like, wow, is this gonna like ruin my reputation? Like, am I in trouble? My company at the time too, like, was not happy. They were not supportive, and they acted, you know, kind of poorly about it. So I was kind of on my own, and I took to my network and was like, guys, like, this is what's happening. Like, please help me. Can you guys report these videos? Like, this is what the scenario is, and like I'm literally being harassed. And I just like called out to my network and my peers for help, and people were like overwhelmingly supportive. Like, oh my God, we're so sorry this is happening to you. This is crazy. And they were like resharing it and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, became this like whole group effort to get this man to leave me alone. Eventually he does. And then I took a moment, and this was, you know, so long ago that Todd LinkedIn articles were a thing. So to reflect on the whole debacle, I wrote this article where I kind of dissected like the thing that he posted, because it was this like copy pasta, like cut and paste, like thing that he literally found on the internet. And I dissected it and talked about like why it's sexist and harmful and blah, 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 and then shared my experience. And that got me so much attention and so much respect and support from my peers. So again, like a really shitty thing that happened, I was able to take it, pull out the lessons, and then share it with my network. And that really helped me expand. Similar to how, you know, the anecdote I shared earlier about getting laid off in Business Insider article, that was another like point where my following expanded rapidly. But I'd say over time, it's generally been pretty gradual. I've definitely had ebbs and flows where, like, honestly, like some years even, I feel like I fell off and was just had a lot going on in my personal life or, you know, whatever, and wasn't posting consistently. But in the last probably like 9 months, I've really made an effort to like lock in and try and be as consistent as possible, and that has yielded really great results for me most recently.
Man, I was excited to have you on because I from again your brand online that you would be honest and real, and I think that's one of the things we appreciate about people that are on SAS Therapy is there are a lot of people out there that have great followings, better than probably all three of us combined. But I feel like I just get the normal answers. I wouldn't get real answers. And so I really appreciate your ability to convey how you've done this. And thank you so much for that. I think one of the things I call out is your ability to learn with joy. I'm a believer that there's three ways you can learn. You can learn with contempt, where you learn with anger. You can learn with sorrow, where it's just like, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that. Or you can learn with joy and say, hey, this happened, but I'm going to find a way to make this joyful. And that's what I think is so real about you, and why the things that have taken place in your life have been the launching points, is you've taken something and like you said, learned from it. So am I right in saying just take your day, just take your life and say, here's what I'm learning, here's what I'm going through, and people will respond to that? Is that kind of maybe the big takeaway of everything you're saying?
Yeah, definitely. And thanks so much for saying all that. I do my very best to be as authentic as possible. I always joke I'm like not really capable of being anything else. Like actually, like you'll know if I'm ever lying, you'll know because I'm terrible at it. But I'd say yeah, like at the end of the day, like happiness is a choice to some degree. Obviously, beyond like your basic needs being met. Like so many people live their lives like, oh, I'll be happy when I get this promotion, or when I make this amount of money, or when I have a relationship, or I have this body, or whatever. And so they like spend their whole lives like chasing the next thing and saying, oh, I'll be happy when I get that. Whereas like the way I try to live my life is like being happy in the moment. And like there's no reason we can't be happy now. And choosing to be like really present and gracious for like where you are at in every step of your journey, I think is so essential. And like being able to take like the terrible things that happen and like extract lessons and learnings and like gratefulness from them, I think is so important. And it's just a better way to live, right? Like living your life thinking that everyone's out to get you and the world is against you and that bad things only happen to you and that you're like a victim to some degree. I think that's like a really miserable way to live. I've been there. And yeah, I can't say enough great things about changing your perspective and really just looking for the silver linings wherever you can.
I love that. I think it's so true that the you have a choice to view your life through the victim lens or through the learning lens. And but I am curious, when you think about the advantage that comes from choosing to be grateful and being happy and looking for the positive in all of the muck. That's not always something that's really easy. Would you say it's are you able to do that better in retrospect, or are you in the point now in your career where you're able to say, man, this really crummy thing is going on, but here's how I'm going to address it in the moment? In other words, are you able to have it while you're in the muck, or does it have to be something that's happening retroactively after you look backwards?
Yeah, I'd say I'm definitely good at doing it like actively now. But at first, like when some of these things happened to me in the past, and it was the first time I was going through something like that, I was like, oh my God, is the world going to end? I pushed through and learned that it wasn't. And consistently over time, I like proved to myself over and over that I was like always okay, no matter what happened. And so now with that like time and experience, I'm able to take these scenarios and like know in that moment, like I will be fine, and that like this is happening because it's meant to, and that like whatever is meant to be will be. And so now I'm able to look at anything that comes up with that lens. I also have somewhat of like a safety net, just with all the work that I've put in to build my network and my career and like whatever, that I didn't have when I was first starting out. So I feel a lot less like risk adverse in that sense.
Amanda, let's get a little tactical. So should I be taking pictures of myself and putting it on there? Do I use emojis or little things on the side with my wording? How long should my posts be? Do you reach out every day to new people and make a connection? Give me some tactical things that I can take away from. Help me, Amanda, help me.
Oh my gosh, that is such a great question, Casey. I think like the holy grail advice is like do whatever feels natural to you, be yourself. I'm a 27-year-old girl, so like using emojis and like being sarcastic and like typing in lowercase, that's like kind of on brand for me. If you were posting like that, I might be like, interesting. So I'd say like what feels natural to you. I definitely think like visuals and like showing people what you look like is important and should be done strategically and in moderation. Right now, you see a lot of like thought leaders who try and essentially like game the algorithm by just like constantly posting pictures of themselves. And there's this like weird phenomenon that's happening right now, and it's with older people. I've noticed, like, no offense or anything, not to like bring it into a place of like ageism, but like, you know how some people have a hard time discerning AI, whereas like I'm super locked in. Like, I know I can see there's not a single pore on your face. Like, I know that's an AI generated image, but like someone who's maybe a little less online might just be like, oh, what a nice photo. And so we're seeing these people use like AI to generate like professional like headshots and like photo shoots of themselves, and they're just like attaching them to every post that is like maybe not even like necessarily applicable to like get engagement bait. And I hate to say it, but like I'm also observing a lot from like women too, because like at the end of the day, like if you got to lean into what you got, and if a pretty picture of you is going to help you get a few more likes, like I guess I respect the hustle, but that's not personally my style at this point. I try my best to just like be logical and post intuitively when it comes to that sort of stuff. I'll post like a selfie every now and then, but for the most part, no. I think like different types of content, like video is huge right now, as we all know. LinkedIn like really wants to be TikTok, so leaning into that, and if you're comfortable creating video, I think you have a huge advantage and opportunity at this point in time specifically. I'd say in terms of like the actual way you post, like besides doing what feels natural and normal to your style, like brief is always better in my opinion. You always see people making fun of like the mile long post with all the like line breaks and just like, that sort of like early, like, 2020, 2018 thought leadership vibes. I avoid doing that, but I love a good emoji here and there. And overall, I'd say like it's just something you kind of got to develop your voice over time.
Well, now obviously all I can think of is I need to post cringy photos of myself periodically, but not too much, just a little bit, but just there's this like sweet spot I gotta find. Anyway, I'll figure it out, Amanda. I don't know. I'm just a loser when it comes to this kind of stuff. So, but
Yeah.
I am curious. So, like, if you're someone who's getting started, it sounds like the first piece of advice is just be yourself. Don't try to copy or pretend like you're someone else. Like, oh, this person who has 50,000 followers, I'm just going to copy them. I'm going to do exactly what they do, because the thing that tends to resonate is real, honest, genuine personality of who you are. So I love that as a starting point. Is there anything else that you would add to a new person who's trying to figure out how to build their personal brand on LinkedIn beyond be real? What else would you add to that as kind of just like your Amanda's 5 laws? I don't know. That maybe that's too many.
Yeah, no, that was definitely well said. That's like the good baseline. And then I'd say like look and see what like one you're passionate about, and like what makes you really different from other people, if anything. And if nothing makes you different from anyone, you got to get more hobbies. That's my opinion. I'm like a jack of all trades. I do so many different things outside of work, and I feel like I have like a really full life, like recreationally and whatnot, outside of just like my career. And so anytime I'm able to like tap into those things and pull them in to like make myself more relatable, is really important. Like, for example, I posted a video the other day and I wore my solid core hat. And solid core is like a Pilates studio. It's like a cult following. It's like really intense and kind of insane. And those who know. And so whenever I like post with that logo, like I got girls in my comments being like, oh my God, you got the hat. Like, cause the way they give out the merch is like you have to do like specific challenges, and like if you take like 13 classes in 15 days, like you get the solid core hat, and it's like a huge accolade in the world of like Pilates girlies. So like being able to incorporate stuff like that and give little nuggets of information for people to like latch onto or relate to, I think can be really valuable. or like, I post about like skiing and mountain biking, and there's definitely like tact required and like figuring out ways to make that relevant, because you don't want to just like be posting about your hobbies 24/7 on the platform where people are coming to like try and learn at least a tiny bit. So I'd say looking at like what makes you unique and what other people can relate to, especially if it's super niche, is really important. That's probably my other like main piece of advice. I'm trying to think if I have any others off the dome.
Amanda, what do you do on connections? You just you're out and about and you're always making a connection? Are you purposefully reaching out to certain type of people to make that connection? What's your message when you connect? Do you do cold outreach, or do you just always just, hey, I'm at a box event or I'm at this event and I make connections, like grab them on LinkedIn? What's some best practices there?
I'm always networking. That is one thing about me, is like when I'm out at the bar and I meet someone new, I'm like, send me a LinkedIn request. I don't give out my Instagram. I don't give out my phone number. I say, connect with me on LinkedIn and we'll go from there. Like, I'm not even joking. My friends always, make fun of me for it, but like, that's always my instinct. I work in partnerships too. So I think that comes with the territory. It's just like, I've always been somewhat of like a social butterfly, so to speak. And I've always been building my network and like getting to know people and making connections and like staying in touch with folks. So I look at every opportunity as an opportunity to grow my network, regardless of whether or not it's a strictly professional situation. And so I will like send out requests that way and expand my network that way. When I see content that I think is good or funny, like I'm sending requests. I don't ever put like a message unless I have an actual request for them. The worst, as you guys know, is like when you send someone a connection request and immediately like get pitch slapped. Like, I don't really do that. I don't really have a reason to at this point. I'm like in sales, but not like that. Like, I don't have to do that. So I don't really have much to say on whether or not, it's effective to send messages like in that capacity.
Todd, we're making 2 shirts out of this conversation that we're going to sell online. Sorry, Amanda. We'll maybe give you some
Can we
money
do a
out of this,
collab?
since they're your words. Pitch slap. I think that's wonderful. I think we put that on a T-shirt. I've been pitch slapped. And treat every opportunity as an opportunity. I mean, that's like deep. It's so simple but deep.
It's true.
Those are the 2 we're making. I've been pitch slapped, and make every opportunity an opportunity. I love that.
I mean, it's pretty profound, isn't it?
It's true. It's true. Casey's in sales. The most profound thing that he ever said to me was 10 years ago or so. And he said, my goal is to win every deal and never lose a deal.
I love
I was
that.
like, what?
Simple to the point.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
cool.
is that not
good
the goal? Is that
That
not
is the goal.
the
That
goal?
is the goal. Yeah. Keep it simple. Keep, if a toddler can understand it, you're doing well, hopefully. Right.
Exactly.
So, Amanda, this has been an awesome conversation. Thanks so much for joining us today. I think, from my perspective, my big takeaway obviously is that, like, if you want to be out in the social sphere, the goal shouldn't be to game the system. The goal should be to be real. And the people who really are going to be the most successful are the people who are real and honest about who they are, how they think, and what they want to achieve. And if you can be honest and real, you're going to resonate with people. So I love it. It's been awesome. We always ask our guests one final question at the end of every episode. This is SaaS therapy. We've had some therapeutic conversations. We've dug in on a couple hard territories. We've had some fun at the same time, but every good therapy session should end with some sort of a homework assignment, something that you would ask your patient to go do to improve their life, to get better. So if you're sitting in the seat of the therapist, what would your homework assignment be for our audience based off our conversation today?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. I'd say that overall, like, my homework for you forever for the rest of your life is just to be the most authentic version of yourself, like as much as you can be. Leaning into that will never, ever, ever steer you wrong. Like, I'm a firm believer in that. And when it comes to building a brand and growing your career and your network and all of that, like, just embrace the cringe. Like, every really great thing that's ever happened to me was on the other side of like a cringe or like painful moment. And people will never fault you for like putting yourself out there and taking risks. And like I said, the people who might do that are not out there doing that themselves. So like, who the fuck cares what they think anyways?
I feel like we just let that linger. I'm like, what do you say after that? It's so good. Amanda, you're the best. Thank you so much for joining us today. And what should people do if they want to get in touch with you? Amanda Nielsen. They go to LinkedIn, obviously. Duh. We already established this.
So I'm on LinkedIn if you want to, connect with me and get some unhinged and sometimes educational posts in your feed. I'm on there. I am on Twitter or X, same handle, it's just very_Amanda. That's like my like not safe for work, like a little bit more unhinged posts. On TikTok at Thought Leader Labs, and then obviously the Thought Leader Labs website is where folks can find my e-commerce brand where I sell silly, unhinged merch inspired by just different tech industry humor. It's really actually inspired by tweets that have gone viral in the past, and people are like, wow, this is so funny, like put it on a t-shirt. And so I did. And then I also do like partnerships, mentorship, and like career advice as well, like as a service through that website as well. So yeah, feel free to reach out. And thanks so much for having me, guys. It's been so fun.
SaaS Therapy is brought to you by Brainstorm, the SaaS platform for SaaS adoption. Learn more at brainstorminc.com.